recognize most people here. Matt, JD, Scott Hendricks.
Round table. Feels like Super Bowl.
That's the Super Bowl all over again.
Yeah, we've done this thing before.
So how's your first owners meeting been so far from this perspective?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, first time being down here. Good experience. Get to connect with a lot of people.
Hey, Kellen, what do you think about the moves you guys have been able to make so far in this offseason?
Yeah. I feel like you've done a nice job of adding real value to our team, and obviously it's the beginning process of the whole offseason where you're continuing to try and acquire guys throughout this whole process, and so I feel like we're heading in the right direction.
You had some additions, but there's also been a lot of retention, bringing guys back, everything. Was that kind of your understanding of how things would go when you were talking about the job, taking the job, all that, or is that?
Certainly, when you go through free agency, players have a choice, and I think that's an important aspect of free agency is they have a choice as well, and so we feel really excited that a number of guys really had a high desire to come back to New Orleans and be part of the team, be a part of the community, and so it was really cool to get to know those guys in a short period of time as they've gone through their process as well.
What was that process like for you, try to get to know everybody? I mean, you took the job after the Super Bowl, and then free agency was still like a month after that. What was that like? How'd you go about that?
Yeah, just trying to connect with anyone who may have questions as they go through this process. Obviously, there's a lot of relationships that will continue to build, especially when we start OTAs coming up in a couple of weeks, and so it's a whole long process.
How was it felt for you just working with the scouting staff and going on some of these trips and speaking their language, kind of so to speak, for the first time and just integrating and all that?
Been great. Jeff is a rock star. His ability to connect that scouting department, connect the coaches. We've done a ton of work over the last week and a half of just kind of teaming up on this scouting process as we've gone through this college cycle here, and so starting midweek this week, we'll start going through the readings of the draft prospects from a coach's perspective and kind of truly teaming up with the scouting department, and I'm really excited about that.
Is there like a chemistry building process between you and the scouts and the staff and the scouts?
Certainly there's a language thing that you're always just trying to connect each other, connect how everyone sees it, how everyone sees the evaluation process, how you see the players fit in your certain scheme, because obviously there's some transitions there, and so all conversations have been great.
How does the scouting department how is that impacted by a coaching change and a coaching staff change? Is that kind of handled separately, or is that part of something you're a part of as well?
As far as what they're looking for?
Personnel within that scouting department. Like, is that Jeff's things where that's his team, or are you able to
certainly Jeff has done a phenomenal job building his staff, and on that side of this, it's a great group. I'm really, really excited to get to spend more time with them in the coming weeks.
How much, I guess, influence do you have in that, Kellen? I mean, in terms of getting the guy that Kellen Moore likes and fits what he wants.
From
an Ireland standpoint, with that that relationship.
Yeah, just from, if you're talking from a player's perspective, I think it's us just having continuous conversations. I was fortunate. I've spent a lot of time the last week and a half with Jeff, just kind of going through the pro day circuit, so to speak, and so we get to have a lot of conversations through that process, and quickly, Jeff was at Dallas at one point. I was at Dallas. Obviously, we didn't overlap, but just being in the same area at one point, there's a lot of overlap and a lot of discussions that we've had independently that kind of bring us together pretty quickly.
How do you kind of decide where you want to go for a pro day versus, because all the pro days are different days, they overlap? How have you kind of chosen to
Jeff really leads the way with that. There's a ton of work behind the scenes just to get the logistics right and get the opportunities to grab a dinner with a player, grab some meeting time in a classroom. There's a lot of work that group did, and they did an excellent job. It was really awesome.
Tom, what's the advantage of getting a handful of guys from one school together at a dinner and meeting them that way as opposed to just maybe like the one-on-one?
We obviously get to watch the film, so we have a good feel for what they have from a skill set perspective. I think it's really getting to know the person, really getting to know the dynamic. I was talking about how valuable the locker room is, how valuable that is, and you want to make sure you bring in the right type of guys that are going to fit the locker room and help that group.
So is it like more natural when you kind of get a couple of them together? You see like more of the real personality as opposed to the button side?
Anytime the guys get to spend time with their former teammates, current teammates, whatever you want to call it, you get a little bit more of the traditional person. It's not a job interview where they're sitting around with a handful of older folks that are quizzing them and testing them.
A couple of places you've been, at least we've seen pictures of you in such a pro days. A lot of quarterbacks have been there. what do you look for kind of just in a young quarterback coming out of college, given your experience in the position and all that?
Yeah, the quarterback position obviously is a valuable position in our league. We all know that. So I'm a quarterback guy. I do like seeing quarterbacks. We had, as we went through our process, there were a couple as we went through the stops, and so. When you're going through those guys, you watch a lot of film on quarterbacks naturally, because you're watching both sides of the ball now. And you look for the skill set that they need. They got to reach a certain threshold, but then really understanding the person and understanding the classroom aspect of it is huge. And so you spend as much time with these guys as you can.
How much do you have to account for Derek's getting older, just planning for the future along with?
I think every team in the NFL is always trying to bring in quarterbacks and develop them under any circumstance. And so everyone does homework every year on quarterbacks. It's a very valuable position, and so obviously we feel like we have Derek, who's played a ton of football and we feel great about, and then we have certainly our organization has invested in quarterbacks the last few years with Spencer, Jake, and then Ben, and so we got a number of guys that we're excited to develop as well.
When it comes to just touch on it, but what's the value of taking swings year after year in that position?
Yeah, I think anytime you can add value to the room, I think is important because it is a developmental position. The age of the quarterbacks peaking is usually a little later. Those guys take a little bit longer. They have longer careers than other positions, and so these guys sometimes take a little bit of time. You got to have patience and ability to spend time with those guys and develop them in a consistent system.
You mentioned the quarterback room as it's constructed now. Assuming that no other quarterbacks are added, how would you go about sort of determining the backup quarterback role behind Derek Carr with the young guys in Ben?
Yeah, just go through a full offseason process. Obviously, give all those guys opportunities. We'll have plenty of opportunities through OTAs, through training camp, through preseason football. Those guys will get plenty of chances.
And would your goal to be to have that backup solidified before the season began, or to even take that competition into the season?
In almost every circumstance, you want to have it defined going into the season. You got to know who your backup quarterback is, and just understand there's a progression there. And not gonna say never ever, but feel like it's pretty strong. Just because of the reps in season, you have to have it set in a certain way. Really, the third guy in a regular season only gets so many reps. It's hard to have three guys platooning in that situation. How's it going?
Weird, 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
What conversations do you have? What do you need to learn?
Yeah, obviously the player from our perspective, Chris is a phenomenal player. Phenomenal player has had a huge impact on this team. He's going to have a huge impact from a medical side. On my side of it's just education and understanding the circumstances he is in. Obviously we feel very comfortable with Chris, understand he's been through a lot the last year or two, and so we feel like there's a plan in place to continue to let him progress, and certainly I get the feeling that he's really, really excited about this opportunity.
This might be a deeper question, but if memory serves, you were still in charge of the job at the
That was my first year, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember some of that? Like, is that getting back in your head a little bit?
I don't remember as much just because that was my rookie year.
Yeah.
And he ended up not, it was really just that first off season, and then it ended up not working out.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if that
Yeah.
triggered it.
Yeah.
What do you guys, Brandon Cooks, how do you see his fit with the other receivers?
Yeah, I had never met Brandon. Our circles were very close. Him being a Northwest guy, playing at Oregon State, and then obviously going to Dallas at one point as well. Phenomenal leader, phenomenal player. I think that combination is very valuable for us. He can still run, he can still play. He had kind of an unfortunate season last year just with the injuries and the setbacks with relation to that. So his targets and catches and stuff were down. If he plays a full season, they probably look a really heck of a lot different. And so we feel like he's still got the player in him, and the leader that he's going to be hugely valuable just for our entire team.
Is there a body type there that you guys would like, or can you get it done with three guys that are all kind of?
Yeah, there's flexibility within that. Obviously, hey, anybody in a perfect world wants to have a basketball team with some tall, some short, some quick, some big. We're flexible. We're flexible, and certainly the people part of it is really, really valuable to us, and we feel like we brought in an excellent player in person in Brandon.
How much was kind of adding more speed to that core also a part of that equation of bringing Brandon Cook in?
Well, that's certainly what you're bringing when you bring Brandon in. We do feel like we have some size behind him. We have some speed still behind him and some younger guys that we're excited to continue to develop. But, you're looking for certain people that fit your locker room who still can play at a really high level. We feel like we hit both of those with Brandon.
And where does, I don't know how much exposure you've had with him yet, but Bud Means, of course, who they invested in last year in the draft, is your first impressions of him?
Yeah, feel great with the direction he's going. Obviously, I haven't been on the field or in the classroom with him yet, but small interactions, great. The film, you're excited about the prospect that he is.
How comfortable kind of for Juwan?
Yeah. Obviously, we're really, really excited to team up with him again. I think that was one of those ones that we talk about, like free agencies, they have a choice, and so we were really excited that he chose us to come back, to be back in the city of New Orleans. That's a huge aspect to us, and so he's been a really good player in this league. We're excited with where he can go. Certainly his ability with the ball in his hands is critical. It's very valuable. His ability to play in the second and third level, a little deeper passing game concepts with the tight ends. Not all the guys can stretch the field that much vertically, and we feel like he can, and so I think some of the stuff we've done in the past with these tight ends that we've had in some other stops, we feel like we can add to his game.
You mentioned the late night.
How comfortable do you feel with your running back? You have a known commodity in Alvin, but a decent amount of unknown behind him.
It's how every offseason usually goes. You have a really, really good player in Alvin, and so we got some guys that we're excited to continue to develop. And so, long process as you go through this. I'm sure there'll be other guys added, draft, free agency, undrafted free agents. There's a lot of different opportunities to add guys there, and so we'll just kind of let it play out. But we feel good that we got some guys that we are continuing to develop.
Juwan had mentioned a late night phone call to you being a really important part of his decision to return to New Orleans. Is that just kind of the type of coach that you want to be?
I think every player is going to go through a different process, and so certainly I understand his side of it. He's going through a process where he's deciding whether to come back to a place that has a new coaching staff. And so just having those questions, understanding what the situation is going to look like, what the situation is going to present himself, it's going to look different than what he was a part of in 2024. And so, those conversations were valuable to him, which I think was a great thing for us.
Do you remember what you were doing when he called?
I think I was starting to pack our house.
I was just curious about like your process in that. Like, are you the type of coach where like if you see a player's name come up, you're answering the phone no matter what it is that you're doing? Like, how important was that for you, just like it was for him?
No, hugely important. I think understanding, putting yourself in the player's shoes, those are critical, life-changing decisions. They're really, really hard decisions. Coaches go through it. When you go through transitions, players go through it. You sympathize with that. You just want to give them the information that they need to make the best decision for them and their family.
You mentioned the offensive line back at the combine. I was wondering about Fuaga just switching to left tackle. Do you guys still see him as a left tackle, or how do you?
Yeah, we see him as left tackle. I mean, he can play anywhere. I mean, he's a big-time player.
And similarly with Trevor Penning, I know he made that transition from left to right last year's right tackle, still a spot that you.
Yeah, we got him there. Yeah, we feel good. Continue to develop.
Do you feel like, with the draft on the way here very shortly, scarily shortly, do you feel that there's more to be done on the roster in free agency before you get to the draft? Do you feel like you're in a place where you can walk into the draft today and feel pretty good about it?
Certainly, if something presents itself, we won't hesitate. It's, again, the whole offseason is a long process of player acquisitions. Sometimes everyone jumps the gun early and thinks this is how our roster is going to look. It's going to look different as we continue to go through this. And so we feel like we're heading in. I think most of the league is heading into a phase where you're focused on the draft. But one or two items will come up, and we'll talk about them and have discussions about them.
What's your take on the Tush coach and banning it or not banning it?
Yeah, obviously I'm very comfortable with the play. There's no injury data. Percentage-wise, the likelihood of converting on it's pretty much the same as any other run. I don't see any issues.
What do you think I know the Green Bay said pace the play and they said player safety, but as you mentioned, the injury data is not actually there. It's kind of all hypothetical and what could happen.
Yeah.
What do you think is there another reason for this proposal, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously most of it's subjective. Obviously factual stuff is pretty consistent, so obviously I feel very comfortable with the league keeping it.
How will you feel if you are the last person to have called that? You're
Yes,
going to go down and
give credit to Jalen and all those guys for creating a play that someone decided we're just going to make a rule up to stop it.
Do you think as it's written right now, I know there's kind of a lot of gray area with what immediately at the snap means, because you line up in that I formation and the push comes after that, that might still be allowed with the way that it's written now.
Yeah, I guess, we'll let them wait for a second and then push them. The defense can push as it's written right now, so it's not like the defense can't push as well. So,
Is it something that you want to spin off variations of it if it doesn't pass today, like for next season?
Certainly it's been a really good play. Obviously, I do think personnel has something to do with it. Obviously, other teams have tried it and haven't had as much success. Jalen, the offensive line of Philly, they've been committed to it, and so it's an investment thing.
Do you feel like you have the personnel here to try it or do it?
I don't know. We'll see. Obviously, I think other teams have tried to replicate it and have not had success. I think investment is, Nick's done a phenomenal job. It's a huge investment to execute that play at a really high level, and they put a lot of time and effort into it.
Did he need to lobby you at all, or were you like, yeah, I'm on your side, man?
I got Nick. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you.
Kellen, all of this is necessary, obviously, as a first-time head coach, all the league meetings and combine and all this stuff, new position. I guess how anxious are you to get your players on the field and actually get into what you want to get into?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're a coach. You want to coach football. You don't want it to be a desk job 12 months a year. But we're really excited to begin the process of OTAs. Obviously, OTAs are structured in a way that it's more of a teaching, it's more of a build-up, and so I think we're just excited to begin the build, and that'll start on April 14th. So,
Kellen, you worked with Kenny Pickett last year in Philly. What was the difference between the player you got when you first started working with him to the one you got by the Super Bowl?
Yeah, transitions are huge for quarterbacks. Sometimes a fresh start can be very, very valuable. Kenny came to us, obviously going through an experience where he played a lot at Pittsburgh really early. We were really excited to get him, and I feel like his growth just took off as the season progressed. And you can certainly see the player that showed up in OTAs versus the player who played against Dallas late in the year. Very different player. The confidence was there. He played at a really high level.
What makes him? What still makes him a quality starter, and could make him a quality starter in this league?
Yeah, I think he's got a good arm. He's got a great, kind of patience to him as far as his understanding of the game, his ability to process at a really high level. I think he's got some sneaky athleticism that allows him to make plays off schedule and out in space. And so he was very, very valuable to us to help us late in the year when Jalen wasn't available.
Have you talked to Taysom at all? Do you know where he's at health-wise?
I mean, I've talked to Taysom, obviously. Obviously we feel he's going through his process, and you don't want to allow him to go through his process. He's going through the recovery phase of this thing and the rehab, and so Taysom's been a premier player in this league. We feel great about him, but let him kind of go through his stages of this, and we'll see where it goes.
How about with Derek? Just after you guys redid the contract, there was still kind of like a weird they're gonna trade him, or they're those are maybe narratives, but what's just your perspective on that? Where your guys' relationship is with Derek, and does he want to be here?
Yeah, no. Derek is obviously a really good quarterback in this league. We've again, I think, been pretty consistent as we've gone through this process. With the restructure, as far as just giving ourselves some flexibility from a roster standpoint. Derek, I'm excited to have him back with us really shortly. Obviously, April 14th will start, and I think that's the fun part. These guys go through the offseason. They have a chance to spend time with their family, invest in all that, which is the right thing to do. And once you get back April 14th, you kind of begin the process of football's in the fold, and it'll be a great process.
Do you get the sense that he's bought in, though, excited about what?
Yeah, we're excited to team up.
I don't know that we've ever asked you your scouting report on Spencer, just after having a chance to watch him.
Yeah, really good player. Obviously, we went through the evaluation process last year when we were in Philadelphia, just watching him at South Carolina. Good player, tons of tools. Obviously, he played in some challenging circumstances, and I think that's an important context as we kind of evaluated it. You want to make sure he's going through the right process. Is he making good decisions? Is he going through his progressions? Is he hanging in the pocket? You saw a lot of those things. Results can be a little bit uncontrolled variables a little bit in his circumstances, and so we're excited to continue to build and develop him as he goes through his second offseason. I think that's always that second offseason for a lot of guys is a huge jump. Your first year, you're just swimming. Any player, this is your first offseason. You go right from your college season to training, draft. It's just like, holy cow, when is this thing going to slow down for me? And it doesn't through that whole first year for all these players. And then you get to that second offseason, it's like, okay, I've had a chance to breathe. I've gone through an off-season program. Now I'm in OTAs for the second time. I think there's huge jumps for those guys always.
And you said at the coaching clinic that you changed the language of the offense 4 times. Is that right?
Every place is different, yeah. Every circumstance is different, yeah.
And just like what, as a staff, what's the challenge for you guys, and why do you choose to do it that way? Because it seems like a lot of people,
Yeah, it really just depends on the circumstance. I've been in a couple places the last few years where there was some continuity, and I thought there was value to that. We'll build the system however we need to. The most important thing is kind of finding a common language. Once everyone speaks the same language, it's like going to a foreign country at times. You kind of got to get everyone on the same language, and then once you do, then everything just flows.
What's the challenge for you to have to be like bilingual or whatever? Like, a year ago it was one word, this year it's another word. Like, is that ever a challenge for
Unfortunately, I've gotten bilingual in football languages, and so we've gone through the process a few times. In Dallas, we had a couple different systems. LA was a different system than Philly, and so and our offensive staff has kind of been exposed to a number of those. A couple guys that were in Dallas with me, LA, Philly. And so it's really just all of us coming together and saying, okay, this is how we're calling things, and this is the system we're going to create.
Last one, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What's the philosophy behind that? Where did that come from? The idea to make it relatable things to the players and not just like pick one word and ride with it forever.
Yeah, I think it's just making the system connect with the players, and again, based off the situation you're in. When I went to LA. Justin had been through a lot of systems, so there's some potential for some continuity there. Philly, we wanted to keep a lot of the language in place. Most of the staff, most of the players were already there, and so I was spending a little bit more time learning the language that was already created, and so we'll build it however we need to.
In New Orleans, is it really a fourth language, or is it similar to one of the other 3?
Yeah, we're leaning on one of the other ones. Yes.
Gotcha.
So.
How about Justin Reed's addition? What does that do for the secondary?
Yeah, a premier player in our league, premier person in our league. We nailed it when we were able to get Justin. And so obviously you recognize there's a lot of other teams chasing after him, and so we feel really, really excited that ultimately he made the decision he wanted to come back to Louisiana. And we're just so fired up. Going into the Super Bowl, preparing to play the Chiefs when I was in Philadelphia, watching him on film, he was one of the big impact players on that field, and so we felt great, having the opportunity to team up with him.
Tre'Davious Ward told reporters in Indianapolis that he was really close to signing with you guys. Was it an either-or situation with him? Did you guys, all right, we missed out on quarterback, let's go to safety, or was it potential to have both? How did you kind of
free agency has a lot of conversations in a very short period of time, and there's a lot of overlap, and so. We felt like both of those players would have helped our team, and we had the flexibility, to handle that however we needed to.
Yeah, just where do you feel like you guys stand, cap-wise, flexibility, after going through this process for the first time?
Yep. Yeah, Mickey and Kai do an excellent job of, handling the salary cap, do an excellent job. I think we still got flexibility as we go through this whole offseason process, which is hugely valuable, and we'll just continue to have the flexibility to make the necessary changes, adjustments, moves that we need as we go through this.
Where do you feel like you guys are with your pass rush? Re-signed Chase Young, but you feel like you still need maybe something a little more there? Or how do you feel?
There's a bunch of things you're always looking to improve. We feel like we got a good group there. Obviously, there's been investment previously and this offseason in the edge rushing department. If something's available as you go through the draft, through the offseason program, we'll continue to evaluate it.
What you like about Dylan Radins?
Yeah, second-round pick. Obviously, you go back to everyone's evaluation of him coming out. Felt really good about him coming out. He's played a bunch of football in this league. Played in Tennessee. Felt like he did a solid job there, and so we feel like it was a really valuable piece to put in our group, allow him to compete at a really high level with those guys, and we feel like we got a guy who certainly could start in this league and compete. Nevertheless.
He's played a lot of different positions in the offensive line. Just wanted to ask, is he in contention for that starting left guard?
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, certainly.
Okay, when talking about draft evals over the years, do you have a favorite running back one that's really popped up that you've done in the pre-draft process?
It's a great question. I like the guy we had last year in Saquon. That was a good evaluation. I think Tony Pollard was a fun one. I think that was one that sticks out from Dallas because it was really a team effort of building the profile that allowed us to draft him, because he really played receiver in college. We're projecting him back to running back where he played a little bit but not as much. And Will McClay, who's in Dallas, did an excellent job of kind of identifying him at the Senior Bowl, saying, hey, this guy, you're not going to see a lot of running back on film, but we really value him as a running back or returner. He played a little bit more running back at the Senior Bowl. We were able to evaluate him from that standpoint, brought him in, and I thought it was a really good example of the scouting department and the coaching staff kind of recognizing a player, building a viewpoint of how we see this guy fitting our roster, and he turned into a really good player.
Did you think that Saquon ever could have potentially had a shot at being 1-1? I know it's really hard for a running back. It has been 30 years.
It's a great question. Certainly, I think people are recognizing how valuable he is, and if that's what fits 1-1 in a particular draft, I don't think people are necessarily scared to do it.
How excited are you to work with Alvin Kamara, speaking of running back?
Yes. Alvin?
Yeah.
Premier player in our league. Obviously, you're really excited to have him on your side of the ball and on the other side. He's just a big play waiting to happen. Great person, great player, great teammate. He'll be a big part of our offense.
He's obviously getting older for that position. Do you worry about touches for him at all, or how do you sort of work that?
All running backs, as you go through the season, there's awareness to, it's a longevity game. The season's very long. You understand every player is going to be different. He's been able to carry the ball a decent amount over the last couple of years, and we'll just kind of see as we go through the season how to evaluate that.
Do you remember your combine interview with Zach Taylor?
I do remember a little bit, yeah.
He talks about that all the time. What do you remember?
I remember we kind of drifted off probably where we shouldn't be, away from where the actual, in the room. We kind of drifted off. We just started talking about ball because Zach was one of the younger coaches in the room, and so he played college football recently, and so it was just fun conversation.
Did you know that was his first ever combine interview?
I remember him showing up and being a little bit like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do here. Yeah.
What is the decision on training camp? Where it's going to be in Metairie?
Yeah, it'll be in New Orleans. Sorry, Metairie. It'll be in Louisiana, and so we're looking at some potential to, see if we can go somewhere else for a shorter period of time this year. But we'll spend some time in Louisiana, and the exposure to the heat and all that sort of stuff. We think there'll be value to it. Just getting accustomed to that, and training camp isn't supposed to be the easiest thing in the world, and so there will be some challenges with the heat, but that'll be a good thing for our team.
Sort of joint practices.
Yep, potentially joint practice. We'll navigate that as we go.
Not a question, statement. Thank you.
What's kind of stood out about the staff that you had some people that you knew, obviously, and some of them kind of been fresh.
I thought it's been a really fun staff just to get to know because obviously doing it late in the process, it was kind of a fast process just to get the group together. And then just spending time, we've done a few things just to spend time together as a staff and feel like it's a really, really good group, A-plus people, guys that come from different experiences and exposures, and I think that's hugely valuable when you team up in a situation like this where we can all kind of lean on our different experiences and combine it to create, one really, really good vision for this team.
What's your philosophy in the draft? Like, if you guys have a need you really want to address, but maybe there's a slightly better player, how do you weigh future need versus current need and player value?
Yeah, obviously you want to get the best players you can. I think that's the first and foremost, most important aspect of it is don't pass up really good players just to fit a certain specific position. When they are in the same tier, on the same level, obviously you're going to lean into players that you feel like can get on the field early, can help you in a really critical position, and so you're balancing those two. I think everyone will probably say similar things. But I think that's hugely valuable, and we're excited to go through the process here in the next 2 weeks to kind of start building that board.
Last year it was very obvious you guys needed a tackle. Does this year feel a little bit more open of where you could go in round one? I know that's player available, but when you guys are projecting your needs.
Yeah, I think it'll be a fun process just to go through the potential situations that could play out. And, fortunate for us, we got a couple third rounds, a couple fourth rounds. We got some flexibility in this draft, I think, to do a number of things and bring really valuable players onto our team that can help us contribute this year.
How do you feel about trading up? You have a GM who likes to do that.
Mickey likes to trade up, so I've seen the numbers, yeah. We'll see what happens.
You were just talking about success with Saquon Barkley and Alvin Kamara and things like that. Brings so much in the idea of positional value and everything. What are your thoughts on that in terms of this position shouldn't be drafted this highly and things like that? Where does that sit for you?
I think it's really on guys who impact the game. I think skill position guys, sometimes we get stuck with running back, fullback, receiver, maybe a slot only or an outside or maybe only a tight end. Kind of the skill position group I kind of sometimes lump together. You just want impact players, and that's where you have the flexibility within the scheme to play with whatever best suits you. And I think it's, hey, I'd love to be an 11 personnel guy. That's kind of been my background. But you have 2 premier tight ends, you're going to play in 12 personnel. You have 2 premier running backs, you're going to play with both those guys on the field. You got to have the flexibility to handle that, depending on how the offseasons play out, the draft, the free agency. You don't want to pass up on good players just because they can't quite fit what you currently do. And so, I think, especially on the defensive side, I think we got a very similar reflection with Brandon, with Phil and special teams. I think we got some great flexibility within our schemes to, suit ourselves however we need to.
In that same school of thought, like, there's these thought processes of, like, the team isn't ready for a quarterback, or the running back, you shouldn't get him until the line's there, and then he can be like a force multiplier. Like, where do you fall on that? Do you have to have it built, or do you just get the players and then figure it out? Or
I do think you want to build the best roster for, you're building kind of an ecosystem, so to speak, for certain players. And so I do think the offensive line, defensive line are critical. That's a very valuable piece. You win and control a lot of the games with how you handle the offense and defensive lines. Been around that for a long time with Dallas and Philly, where that's been a huge aspect of our success in both those spots. And so, you'll continue to build it however you need to.
How do you feel about defensive tackle? You guys traded for Gotch, but also brought back Saunders.
Yep. Feel like we're in a good place. Jonah Williams in there as well, who can play some more of that inside defensive line positions. And so we feel like we got some good depth there, some guys who play some football. They understand it. They can play at a high level. And, as we go through this process, we'll see how the draft plays itself out.
Similarly, how would
Just
you
gave us 2 or 3 more.
Okay.
Thank you. Similarly, how would you assess sort of the linebacker room behind Demario Davis and Pete Werner?
Yeah, fairly young group, a group that we're excited to continue to develop. Again, similar situation. We feel like we got some guys in there who can develop into players that can play on the field at a high level. But as this thing goes through, if we add a piece, awesome.
Is it something that you all pay attention to? I mean, you have over 100 starts for Demario, over 40 starts for Pete Werner, and then you've got this big drop-off in terms of starting opportunities. How much does that matter versus the potential that those are?
Yeah, I mean, those 2 are really good players. There's a reason those other guys haven't started games, because we have 2 really good linebackers that play a lot of snaps. And so we feel great about those 2. Obviously, the younger guys, they're developing. We feel like there's some developmental pieces there that will be valuable to our team.
How do you feel like this quarterback class is in general?
Yeah, it's a good class. Good class. Obviously, I think different skill sets. I think that's the important aspect of it, is kind of identifying stylistically how all of them play and what best suits them.
And a lot of quarterbacks coming out now have more starts because of NIL.
Yep.
Are you seeing that experience kind of pay off? Like, are quarterbacks becoming a little more ready?
Yeah, hugely valuable. You kind of go back to the Bill Parcells philosophy of, guys that have played a couple years of football and college football, just the experience and exposure. And I think at the same time, Bo Nix, I think, was a great example. Older guy, but he's played a lot of football. Quarterbacks aren't maturing and peaking necessarily until they're in their early 30s, a lot of these guys. And so they're continuing to build. They got a long career if they have success. And, you've seen that a lot throughout this league.
Super quick, any update on Boston Rowe's kind of recovery process?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you see him, it makes your day better. Foster's awesome. Certainly he's going through his process. You feel like he's heading in the right direction. And I think the biggest thing is let the recovery and rehab process just take care of itself. We're not going to rush to judgment and all that sort of stuff, but we're excited whenever he comes back. Okay.
Dallas is the language you're basing
No, won't be Dallas. A little bit, a few of them.
Which one?
It's like a little bit of a combination, Steal a little bit here, steal a little bit here. Yeah.
I'm leaning towards one.
Is it a really recent? Thanks, Kellen.